Okay, let's get started. Welcome again to this 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀 webinar about how we are going to break low code. My name is Chris Obdam. I'm the CEO and founder of 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀. Again, big welcome to everyone who is joining here or who is listening or watching later. It is time to break low code. It's a really important topic for us, but also for everybody who is doing anything in low code or in software development in general or automations. So let's get started. So this industry, the low code industry, it seems like it's hating its customers. It does so much to push away customers with increasing prices, with vendor locking, with complex pricing. Why is that? If you look at a developer, regardless if you're a business technologist or you're a more experienced low coder, right? You want to enjoy the fruits of your labor, right? You invest time in building an application, right? You are working with your users or right with your customers to build an application. So it means that you're investing time and you're using a tool set, right? Which is a great tool set. I still enjoy low code quite much because ever since I started 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀 a long time ago, right? One of the reasons was that I was founding this company together with my brother, and I was the tech guy, and he was the business guy. So he didn't want to learn how to code, but I still want to make sure that he was able to build apps, right? You could call it citizen development, business technologist, or whatever, right? Or just empowering business, tech-savvy business users. It has always been at the basis of what we do as 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀, and for me personally in low code. So that means that that vision is still there and still very strong. It has become even more strong with AI appearing in the field and all kinds of code generation tool, vibe coding appearing as well, right? And that has proved that enabling business people to build software, the democratization of it, is still one of the hottest topics in tech, right? And the growth of these companies have shown that as well. But if you look at more traditional low code, right, and maybe we are part of that as well, or have been part of that as well, right? It has always been on a strange basis. But let's dive into that. It feels like at this moment it's an industry or a category moving backwards. Vendor lock-in has always been a big topic. And let's be honest, there was always a reason for it, especially with bigger vendors. Right? Some of them have been acquired by private equity, and we all know how that goes. They want to see continuous growth, right? And they want to see great margins. And sometimes, right, when the market is very dynamic, there's only one way, and that is with a negative attitude. So that means that you want to keep your customers in, and you don't want to enable them to go anywhere. So that vendor lock-in was not only a technology thing, but also a strategic decision by vendors. So that meant that all of those applications being built were part of a walled infrastructure, right? You were being kept in. Some of them rely on let's say, somewhat legacy or outdated development environments, right? Maybe not web-based, maybe you need to install stuff. And if you want to enable business developers, that is quite a barrier to take, right? Installing stuff, but you just want to have a seamless experience, especially with AI appearing, right? What people demand in terms of ease of use has increased as well. So some of the companies are moving in the wrong direction. And on top of that, there's the SaaS concept as a whole. Right, when I was starting as a young boy in IT, or I started developing over 30 years ago already, it was quite simple, right? You bought software, you installed it, and right, you got something. It's the same when you buy a banana, right? You buy a banana, you pay for it, and you eat it. But this whole SaaS craze, and right, that meant that everything needed to be subscription-based. It has all kinds of upsides to it. Right, it has a continuous development, right? You can have continuous new versions. You don't need to take care of that, right? There's less maintenance as well. But what also came with that is that everything needed to be charged as well. And if you look at smaller no-code platforms, some of them, they are somewhat trapped as well. Because what we see in the space is that some vendors have a very niche product, but they charge normal size pricing for it, right? So you still pay a couple of €1,000 or dollars a month just to use that product. But that business case is not really adding up. And again, on top of that, you are putting you're putting in all the effort, making sure that you build a great application, a great automation, or a great AI agent, right? And then you build it in some kind of an environment, and you can never take it out. Some of them say that you can take it out, but have you ever tried? Did it really work? So portability has always been the Achilles heel of low code and automations in general. So that meant that at the end, the locked-in bit was by design. There's been a study of companies trying to migrate away from a specific low-code platform, and right prior to AI, right, a large amount, 83% of migrations failed. So that meant even if you wanted to go, if you had a new contract somewhere, it was hard to go away. And that means that you have zero negotiating leverage. I have talked to dozens and dozens of IT managers, CIOs, and they all feel the same, is that they are being strong-armed into paying a certain amount of licenses, right? And that is not how it's supposed to be. If you look at the technology part of this, right, at the end, low code is nothing more than a development tool, right? You can either code it in Python, in .NET, whatever you want, or you use a tool that accelerates it, right? If you even look at Visual Studio Code, that's also in a way a low code tool maybe, right? Because it helps you to build code faster. So it is more, it's just, these are all just shades of gray. And I think that is how we need to approach it. At the end, the most portable aspect in software is still code itself, right? So if you don't want to be locked in, that means that you want to have an escape to high code. Let's just frame it as high code, right? To the code bit of it. And not as a escape as in, hey, you can do it, but it takes you 2 months to get it up and running. Right? All of those closed ecosystems, they don't have any exportability, but there's also no standardization. And I know that some vendors have always been looking at that and maybe aspiring to do so, but at the end, nobody really did. So that means there's a lot of room to do so as well. So at the end, for us, it should be that there should be like no lock-in. And that means that if you build something, it's not a closed ecosystem. No, it's a ecosystem based on standards. So that means that it's only about the development phase, how it should look like, right? So if you swap the development process and you swap low code for high code, the end result should always be the same. It's just means to an end, right? How do you get from A to B? And sometimes you get from A to B with high code. Sometimes you get from A to B with low code. Sometimes you get from A to B AI vibe coding it. But that standardization is also part of that locked-in part as well, the non-standardization. And it's important to phrase, right, this is not only about applications. There's this exploding amount of AI agents and other kinds of automation which are exploding in the market, not only the tools, but also the actual applications and agents itself due to AI. And we love AI, right? There's so much to love about what's happening right now in the market and what's happening in technology, right? Your imagination is the only limitation again, which is really cool. But that means that the topics we're discussing right now and the problems we're addressing is not exclusively for a low-code application somewhere. It's an automation as well, right? So if you're building something, and I'm not going to name vendors today, you can fill them in yourself. If you build an automation somewhere, that means that you build it there. It goes from A to B of this cool flow, and it works. You're happy. But then the license negotiations start, and you're like, yeah, I built like 30 automations and I don't want to lose them. But hey, they're increasing prices with 30%. Where do I go? It's built in a proprietary environment. You can take it anywhere. So for automation, it's the same with an application. And AI agents, right? It's exactly the same. Because at the end, an AI agent, probably nothing more than a workflow based on top of an LLM. Thankfully, at this moment, we have something to choose in terms of LLMs, right? There's OpenAI, there's Anthropic with Claude, and so many more European-based ones, also open source ones, and most of them are doing quite well as well. So there's something to choose there. So why isn't it not that open? So at the end, the solution is standardization, and of course, it is not up to us to come up with a new standards. And fortunately enough, there are already open standards where you can adhere to. And I'll talk about that later on as well. And besides the lock-in and besides the license payment strongholding and the contracting stuff that is going on, there's an important topic, and this might be more a European topic than maybe in the US. But what a lot of people want to have right now is independence from certain vendors, or at least the possibility to move away. The Patriot Act was already there, which was a big topic for people to move somewhere else. But this is an example over here in the Netherlands, where I am right now. A Dutch government chose for a specific vendor, but then that vendor was acquired by a US company. And there was all kinds of proprietary technology, and that means they were locked in. At the end, what you want to do is that you want to make sure that as a company, you have maximum flexibility. And it doesn't matter which region you're in, but you want to make sure that, I don't know, if you get into a conflict with a company or with a certain, if the country where you are becomes into a conflict with another certain country, right? You don't want to be on the wrong end of the stick. So a lot of our customers are asking around this, and that is what is also part of the breaking of low code as well. About the flexibility, it should be about making sure that you can have your application where you are and that you can pick it up, take it somewhere else. And it's not only about the geographical location, but also about architectural independence. If you have standardization, that means that you can take it somewhere else and that you have options to choose from as long as the vendor adheres to that standard. And a lot of them are. Let's talk about pricing. Pricing is hard anyway, right? I have built a company, which is a SaaS company, right? So many of the problems I'm addressing here, we might have been a part of it as well, but today I'm here to make sure that we present a solution to this. And the biggest part of it at the end is also the pricing bit. As you see already stated on this slide, the bigger, higher level problem is that there is little correlation between value and price. And especially in SaaS, and there should be. It might be that, and that is into the Chinese menu problem here, that the points and the credit systems that the LLMs and all of the AI-based new platforms out there are using might be a solution to it, but the problem is it's very much overpriced. So it might be flexibility in terms of pricing or transparency. The only thing is that you have no clue what you're going to pay for, and you don't really understand it as well. And the first part of it, and that is what we're killing today here, is per user pricing, right? It's really strange that you build an app and you run it on your own infrastructure maybe, which is totally fine, and I encourage you to do so, is that if more people start to use it, you already pay more for your infrastructure. Why should you pay more license to your low-code vendor when more people use your application? That's your success, right? That's not because of that toolbox that you've used. Some vendors have the combination of per user or per app pricing, but if it's per app pricing, it becomes quite expensive quite fast as well, although it is meant to be cheaper. But there, if you have multiple applications that you need to pay at a per app basis, right, the growth gets into the exponential part there. And I haven't addressed all of the hidden charges that are there. Premier connectors, API limits, specific deployment fees, everything like that. It is really not transparent. And that is also why people are being pushed again towards high code. And that is really strange, right? I've been into this game, let's call it 10 years. So that means that if this is really successful, if you really have value to bring, more people are using it. But what we see with enterprise customers as well is that they are moving applications away from low code towards high code, right? And that's not 𝗬𝗺ឆ𝗶𝗄𝗧, right? It does happen here as well, but it's all kinds of other vendors, all the names that all of the people are familiar to the space, which they encounter as well. And that is because at the end, the business case doesn't add up, right? It's a very simple math. Okay, how much time does it take to build an application using high code? Let's use like an average experienced developer, high coder. And then you take that time and then you use a tool to speed up that person, right? The amount of license that you pay for that, right? That is where the actual business case should be. There is additional value, right? Our platform also adds a lot of governance stuff. So that means that you can see who's building that app or who has built this app, who's maintaining it, is that app still being used, who is using it, on what basis, right? So that you can really get a perception of the value, the business value of it. But, right, why should that be part of this bigger mix? At the end, the business case for a specific app needs to add up, and that's not happening. And that is why we are breaking low code today. We're not fixing it, we're breaking it. And that is a huge difference. And these are bold statements and bold words, but we actually mean business. So you can take us up and we can prove to you what we are planning to do and have already done. If you have a question, feel free to add it into the Q&A section of the Zoom. Of course, if you have questions later, feel free to add it as well. I'm going to address them at the end of the webinar. So thank you, Joris, for already sending that message. I'm going to address that later on. To continue, there are 3 groundbreaking shifts. And the first part, as mentioned, is about pricing. So what we are offering is not billing users and also only charging you when you're actually building your application, right? There is a part of the pricing which should be about running your application, and there should be a part about maintaining or building your application. So if you're not doing the latter, you should not pay at all, right? If there are different features that you're using from our platform, which we have, right? We have other cool features, then, right, we might charge you, but that, again, should be a business case that adds up. But if you're not building an app, you should not pay for that app. The second part is portability, openness. An application should be portable, so that means that with 𝗬𝗺ឆ𝗶𝗄𝗧, if you build an app, at any moment you can pick it up, continue to develop it in high code. You can run it everywhere you like, right? Our basis is Kubernetes, but you can run it on other infrastructure as well. And everything we generate for you is something that every normal developer can read and can extend to as well. Straight out of the box. No conversion, no modules needed, anything like that. And it's all based on open source and open standards. And the last shift is around true sovereignty. So that doesn't only mean sovereignty in terms of region, but also in terms of architecture. Because if you have an application and you have it in a certain location, but you're still very much tied or kidnapped by your vendor, that means that you still don't have true sovereignty and you might be in a bad place when something happens. We all know the example of the International Court of Justice in The Hague over here in the Netherlands. They got into a conflict with Trump and the Trump administration. Trump called Microsoft and Microsoft pulled their license. They couldn't even access their email anymore, the email history and anything like that. And that has happened before and happened after that as well. This is the most common one. So if you're a government agency or something who needs that independence, it might be a competitor standpoint for you as well, then that is a really important topic. So how does it look like? Fair pricing. So we only charge when you're developing. That means if you're not developing, right? If your contract ends, you can just pick it up and run it somewhere else. We even encourage our customers to maybe run it outside of 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀 or that we can install it somewhere where you maintain it under your contract. That's already part of the sovereignty as well. And we don't charge the end users of your applications as well. It doesn't matter if they're internal or external, it doesn't matter. And that we know from our research that that is a big problem with other vendors, right? You've built an app, you have 100 users, right, paying X, but then it scales to 1,000. And then the license goes crazy as well, right? Maybe to name one name, because it's a big company, we all know 𝗹𝗺apps and Microsoft. We have a gazillion stories from customers who went from 50K for an application to at least 500,000. That's for one freaking application. That happens a lot, right? And the last part is that, right, we don't want to charge the success of your application, right? If it takes more resources, you buy more resources, right? And you pay market rate for that, right? There should not be a surplus on top of that or a surcharge or anything like that. So we will guarantee you our no license guarantee that if you're not building, right, you don't need to pay license for the application, right? And we have made special contract set up for you to make sure that we can guarantee that. And we have already customers where we are setting that up for, right? Big question is, hey, Chris, how are you making money? That is the first question that we get. So we believe that if we provide value, you will continue to use our platform because you know that applications that are being, that you have, normally they will be developed, right? There will be bug fixes, there will be maintenance and everything like that. But we also have applications who are 5 years old, right? And they're not being developed anymore, right? Nothing is happening, right? Why should you pay a license for that, right? So if you're using our platform, if you're getting value, then you pay our license, right? If nothing happens, right? Then we don't charge you. So the second bit, which we call 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀 open, you build it, you own it, including the code. There is no 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀 proprietary stuff in there. There's only open source stuff, right? So we have contributed to the open source community. We are relying heavily on WebAssembly for our backend and relying on Wasm Cloud. But all of that is open source and we have contributed to that. So that means that if you build a 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀 application, your front end will be in React, which is open source as well. So if you're a React developer and you open up our code, you understand it. There's no strange stuff in it, right? You can read it, you can change it. If you want to see how that works, I'm going to do a different webinar on the technology part of this as well to explain how it's done, how the technology works, right? Because at the end, this is also about sharing. It would be great if other platforms adopt this as well. These are standards, right? So it's not owned by us, it's owned by the community. And we would love other people and other companies to chime in as well. And the Wasm Cloud is quite cool. That is not widely known yet, but we believe it's the future of software development and hosting applications. WebAssembly is a little bit more known. That is a compile target where our backends are being built on as well, right? So what we do, if you build a workflow on us, we generate code and that code runs inside a WebAssembly environment. And that code can be in any language that you like. It already says there, right? Bring your own language. So by default, we do Rust and we do TypeScript or JavaScript. Some of our customers like to do Python, which is a big language as well. If you'd like to do .NET, no problem there as well. You can bring it and you can add it to 𝗵𝗺𝗺𝗀, and that is all open. So that means that we will always offer you a way to go to high code without rewriting. You pick it up and you can run it within a couple of minutes. There is always a README associated with it. So if you read the README and follow it, you can run your application outside of our platform. Of course, there are some restrictions if you're using our free version of our platform and stuff like that, right? So there might be some contract disclaimers there, but the technology always allows it. So we'd like everybody to have a look at it. and understand why we think we are breaking low code with this. So if you'd like to learn more about this, just make sure that you sign up for the additional webinar that will appear in your timeline somewhere or in your inbox anytime soon as well, because from a technology point of view, this is really cool stuff. At the end, what this means is that we guarantee there's no vendor lock-in, right? So we would encourage everybody to move away from vendor lock-in situations, go to us, right? We will help you to migrate away as well. AI is really helping with that. That means that you are in a sovereign, flexible position where you only pay for everything you use, and leave us if you don't either like us anymore, if you don't need us anymore, right? And that happens. So in that sovereignty bit, there are 3 layers of control. The first one is the location. Where does it run? It can run on an EU private cloud or wherever you like. It can be a hybrid setup. What we also do quite often is that we run applications and we help to maintain them, right? There's an SLA associated with it, with our company. We make sure that your application continues to run, but it runs on your infrastructure and your contract. So that means that, right, if you cancel the SLA with us, right, you're on your own, but you can still continue to run it. Then the question is who controls it, right? So that is a very much a legal thing. And the third one is the architectural bit of it. At the end, you need to know that you not only have no legal dependencies and no geopolitical impact, but you can also pick up your application and make sure that the architecture where it's dependent on is also set up in a sovereign way, application sovereignty. Because if you still have a dependency somewhere in your application with a big tech company somewhere, you have put it in this very sovereign location, but you can't use it if you're not, because you're dependent on something that you need to pay for to a big tech company somewhere. So that's what we call that architecture is also part of sovereignty as well. So we have our own SAFE framework here. It sums up what we try to do in the market. We want to bring secure and governed applications, enterprise grade, from day one. If you look at, for instance, the open source projects which we rely on, they are being used by the same big tech companies in an open source way, but also big financials and other Fortune 500 companies, right? So this is not niche technology what we're talking about. It's enterprise grade. You can use it from day one within the same ease of use as you have learned to love from BettyBlocks. And there's of course no way where we have a webinar and we are not pushing our new AI features, right? We've all learned to love all of the new tools that have emerged. What we have brought with BettyBlocks is AI-driven application development based on all of the technology stuff and all of the concepts that I just put out there. But you still have the luxury of just prompting, and then your application will be generated, and it already looks great from minute one. So you don't need to sacrifice speed for all of the cool stuff that you're getting here. And what you're getting here is flexibility and openness, and at the end, extensibility, right? So it can grow with you from an architectural and an infrastructural point of view, right? So back in the day, low code had, let's say, people had the prejudice that low code was not really meant to do scalable applications, right? Regardless of the size, right? If it was being used often, right? Low code was not for that. And truth be told, right? So I don't know, years ago, we struggled with that as well. But low code platforms have evolved also from a technology point of view, and BettyBlocks certainly did that as well. If you build an application right now, it runs as fast as any high-coded app. And I'm here to state that it runs faster. It runs faster as your high-coded application. And we we're standing on the shoulders of the giants to make sure that we can prove that, especially WebAssembly and Wasm Cloud as well. That means that applications are very much lightweight, and that means that they will run as fast as they can, and that's really fast. And the extensibility is also around which language do you use. what we want to say, and I think how we are breaking low code is that a low code platform should adhere to your infrastructure. So if you're a Python company, it should do Python. If you're .NET, it should do .NET, right? Because it's really strange that you have these architectural setups, and then there's this island somewhere on the side, and that is where low code applications live. But that is how it is nowadays, right? It's always somewhat separated. It does not adhere to your normal pipeline and your normal deployment stuff, but it should, right? And with 𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗀𝗧 you can. So what does it mean for you? Big question, of course, is how do you evaluate the platform? Now you know that all of this is possible. The first thing, of course, we want all of you, of course, to be our customer. That would be great. But what we also would love is that we help you to understand better what you should ask for. And the first thing you should ask for is that you should demand portability of an application, right? You should not be stuck in a platform somewhere. And you should be able to pick it up and run it somewhere else without a minute of work. And that combined with pricing transparency is really what you need to look for, right? You don't want to go from 50K to $500,000 for one application and then have nowhere to go, right? If you're this big enterprise, right, you maybe can absorb that. But if you're somewhere, I don't know, somewhere in between, then that might be a big problem for you personally if you're managing that application. If you're locked in at this moment in a different platform right now, we are here to help. We have built several migrators for the big names out there where you can just pick that application, and we use AI and some other magic stuff where we migrate that application for you. And we migrate it to an open setup. And that means that you can go from vendor A, vendor B, and directly go to a 𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗀𝗧 app. Of course, you need to tweak it a little bit because every time when you look at an application, you want to improve it a little bit as well, but you don't need to rewrite it in whole. It is really a big thing. And at the end, right, where should you look for in terms of scaling applications, right? You should stop paying a penalty when your application becomes successful. This model is rapidly changing at the moment, and not only because we are breaking low code today, but also because the dynamics in the space will force this as well. With the whole token model that is happening around AI, people are getting adapted to a different way of charging for the building of applications. So we're only in the early days of that change. So I would advise you be the first to change and make sure you get all the advantages of that, and right, save money as well. What we see a lot is that people have multiple development platforms and multiple SaaS tooling, which you can also rationalize by using one platform, for instance, 𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗀𝗧. It will save you license cost, will have you easier maintenance, and will probably have you more features at the end as well, right? So stop paying penalties for growth. So start building, start scaling your application. And as mentioned, this is not only about applications. We are a full-featured platform, so that means that you can build AI agents, AI chat agents, you can build workflows, you can build applications. And we are working on a cool new feature where you can also build MCP service as well. So it's a whole suite of automation that you can build with 𝗏𝗺𝗺𝗀𝗧. So make sure to just visit our website, sign up for the trial. You can start doing that straight away after this webinar, of course. Go to our website and our AI will generate an application in a matter of minutes. Please provide us your feedback as well. This is constantly and continuously in development. We are adding cool features every week. So your feedback is much appreciated. So that's me talking. Let's see which questions we have. Let me first pull them up here. There we are, Q and A. So we first have Joris here. Let's start with Joris. I think he was first, yeah. So you're talking about maximum flexibility. On the other hand, certain lock-in gives you guarantees, right? How do you handle the contract in this situation? Can you sign off on a monthly basis? Isn't it a very big risk to the vendors in this case? Yeah, that of course depends. It depends on where you stand as well, and what you need. Right, at this moment we do yearly contracts, right? You're referring to monthly. We don't have that setup. We do have monthly payments, but contracts are for a year. And at this stage, right, that gives us the room to continue to invest as well. That might change because we are breaking low code, but at this moment it is on a per year basis. So there is a risk to it, but the risk is always there because if we don't provide enough value, that means that after that year, people will go away and then we have nothing as well. We have a question from Francesco. Do you have a trial period where we can try the platform? Yes, we have. We also have a free version as well. So if you use the trial, you can use that for prototyping as long as you like. And if you have questions, there's a chat which you can use as well in the platform built in. And my colleagues are at the ready to answer any questions there. So make sure to use it, Francesco. There's Nick Ford. Will your pricing be token-based per app, which combines the development and app usage in one consumption model? Yes, that is. We don't call it tokens because it associates a little bit too much with the AI tokens and want to stay away from that. But it is, it more or less boils down to, oh, I need to click this. I think I need more or less boils down to that. Part of it is as well that we are separating the development license bit also from the runtime cost as well. And that means that you can, right, if you want to optimize that, you can take that charge yourself and optimize that. And we can help you with that because we can deploy to a setup like that. That's less breaking, but it's also part of our model. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for joining. Looking forward to talk. There's another question here. Are you saying we can build AI workflows that aren't trapped in your platform? Yes, that is true. If you build a workflow in our platform, we compile that to code, and that code is being compiled to WebAssembly. And you get both. You can download that straight away from our platform, depending on the setup that you have. And then you can just pick it up and run it anywhere you like. So of course there are different automation platforms where you also have that, but that is not a standards-based setup. And there's a very limited amount of vendors who offer that. Another question here. Do you have customers who have successfully moved from other platforms? Yes, we have. So we have customers moving from Power Apps, for instance, or OutSystems. And they are using our AI migrator, or we are helping them with that. We also have partnerships with companies who give guarantees in the migration as well. So that means that if you want to migrate your application away from OutSystems, we give a guarantee together with that partner, 9Hertz, where we guarantee that we do that within a specific amount of time and for a specific budget as well. And that is a really cool setup where we think we can fix your business case within a year. So within a year, it is cheaper to migrate it away and still cut costs in that same year on your license. And we have seen that, so that's quite powerful. There's one here. How do you handle data protection requirements for companies in the EU? There are different ways. Of course, we rely on infrastructure providers for that as well, but we are flexible from that. Of course, you can run on Azure or AWS, and they provide certain guidance and setups for that as well. But for instance, in Germany, we have local infrastructure providers who are actually owned by the German government, where you can host your application. And that, in the end, is the hardest protection that we and that the setup can offer. If you want to learn more, just let us know. It's not only Germany, but other European countries as well. Let's see. I already got this one. So how does our pricing compare to something like OutSystems or Mendix when we scale to thousands of users? Yeah, so the first part, the difference is, of course, if you're, depending on which platform you compare it with, is user-based pricing. And if you, I'm not sure if it's in this question, but if you look at 𝗀𝗺𝗃𝗃, what we see, if you have 400 users and you need to have a connection to an external system, which makes the premium license mandatory, that means that you need to pay 90K, 90,000 euros or dollars in the same area per year for one application. And a similar setup for 𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗃 in a comparison that we had was only 10K with even additional features that didn't come with 𝗀𝗺𝗃𝗃 as well. So that saves you 80K a year. And if we see how long an application lives, it is average 4 or 5 years. So that means that you have saved 500,000 euros with just that one application. And we have customers who have 30 of that. So what I always see, so what we do see happening in the world is that CIOs want to rationalize their vendor landscape, and they rather go for one vendor, presumably maybe Microsoft. And what we always challenge them with is are your principals worth 3 million euros a year, right? Because that is what's happening. You want everything on one vendor, and that means that you're losing 3, 4, 5 million euros a year, or dollars, doesn't matter that much. So question here, what is the catch with fair pricing? There has to be something hidden, right? Yeah, so the word fair is of course a relative term. We combine that with transparent. So that means that, right, we want to keep it as simple as possible. So that means that it is predictable as well. So is there something hidden? No, there is not. It is more a matter of being transparent and also being reasonable as well. And I think what we have learned as a company is that business cases should add up. So that means that people are just happily willing to pay the cost that we charge for the platform that we offer and for the applications they have built with it. And that is what FAIR is about. I hope that answers your question. So maybe a final question here, if I have one left, scrolling through the list here. Maybe the first one. Oh, there's here one. Let me do yours, Francesco. You just popped in. Francesco asks, do you still offer completely hosted solutions, and is your pricing competitive compared to other platforms? Yes, it is. It's very much competitive. It is way cheaper. Our goal is never to be the cheapest. But if you want to be fair and you want that business case to be reasonable, you need to be cheaper. And we can build a great company around fair pricing, and we are doing so. And that also means that we still offer completely hosted solutions, right? So our basic offering is always based on our public cloud offering. That has always been the case and will continue to be the case. Also with that public offering, that means that you can pick up your application and run it somewhere else, of course, depending on your contract. But if it allows it, you can do that straight away or test it to see how it works. But that doesn't matter where you host it, because what people appreciate from 𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗃 is the ease of use of the platform and also the completeness of the proposition and the offering. And that includes the hosting. So we will continue to do so. We think there's a great market for people where it is still a hosted solution and you don't need to be bothered, but that the contract is under your name as well. And we have customers where we do that. And that means that you don't need to bother about any technological stuff, but you still have all the control in on your side of the table. And let me click done there. I think that is it for now. Time is up. Thank you for joining. I hope you like what we're saying here. If you do, make sure to share it with us, and also make sure to just sign up again. If you have signed up before, make sure to come back to our platform as well, because it is not the same platform as 2 weeks ago, and it will not be the same platform in 2 weeks from now. So please make sure to continue to come back. We are developing at a very high rate and really breaking low code here. So thank you for now. Thank you for joining. And hope to see you in another edition. Thank you.